Hello! So this video is going to be combining two different subjects which are connected on the general theme of martial arts in Japan. So we're going to start with me learning an interesting story about how Judo, which is a martial art native to Japan, found its way around the world. And then we are going to end this video with me actually performing some Aikido, which is a different martial art here in Japan. Here we go. So in addition to working at Esajuku, which is the English school where I work during the evenings, I also have an internship with the Japanese Tourism and Convention Bureau. And so for my first assignment, myself and my partner Yuto went to Hirosaki Park, and we were supposed to find something that was unusual, something about the park that most people didn't know. And so we found these stone monuments, these stone plaques, like this one. And this one was actually right outside of the museum that's there within the park. So we went inside the museum and we asked, hey, what is this monument? And the woman at the reception desk didn't know. So she went and asked her boss, and her boss didn't know. And her boss brought out an old book that gave us a little bit of information about it, but she really told us to go talk to another man who was at a different part of the park that I guess he had more information about some of the things like the monuments and whatnot that they didn't really know about in the museum. The museum was more for the artifacts and things that happened to be hosted there. So we went to the other little building and we were told, oh, that monument is for the first mayor of Hirosaki, and it was put there a long time ago. I think like in the maybe 1908 kind of time period, like that kind of more than 100 years ago, I think. And so that was really interesting, but he told us the other one that you should go see is this monument here. So this monument is for a man named Mitsuyo Maeda, who traveled the world in the 20th century to Europe and South America teaching judo. And he actually introduced judo to Brazil, where it would eventually become Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which, you know, that's really cool. I didn't know that. He was a Hirosaki native, and I've definitely heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's still remembered there, apparently, in Brazil, according to this monument, for being the one that taught them Jiu-Jitsu. So Yuto and I thought that was pretty cool, so we decided that that would be what we wrote about. So in the description of this post, you can see a link to our article, which was posted on the Tourism and Convention Bureau site this week. Just a short little blurb. Yuto and I collaborated on the English, and he wrote most of the Japanese. I think I contributed maybe one or two phrases to the Japanese translation of our English blurb, but it was a lot of fun, and we learned something really cool about Hirosaki, and also about martial arts in Japan. Another cool part of my internship is that I have these cool business cards that I can hand to people to explain why I'm wandering around looking at old monuments. That's pretty sick, I think. There's a whole like procedure and process that I've learned too of how you give a business card to someone in Japan. So what you do is you face the Japanese side towards them, and you should have both hands actually holding the card. So I would have the hand I just showed you on that side, and my other hand. Wow, it's hard to do this on camera. On this side, and I think it depends on seniority. You either go under the other person's business card, over the other person's business card, or under, and you both kind of pass them at the same time. So when I, for example, gave my card to my boss, I went under her card, and she takes yours with her lower fingers, and when she does that, you then take hers with your upper fingers, and then you're supposed to put all the cards you received in one meeting in front of you on wherever you're sitting in the order of how people are seated, so you can remember everyone's names. So it's one little aspect of Japanese corporate culture that I have learned at this internship, so that's pretty cool. So, learning that little bit about the history of judo fits really well with one of the classes that I'm taking, which is about Japanese martial arts in general. And the way that class is structured, there are three traditional Japanese martial arts that we are going to be doing, 1 month basically of each. And the first is Aikido. And Aikido is a fairly recently developed martial art. It's all about transferring your opponent's motion. So you never try to push against your opponent. You try to make it so that you are both facing the same direction and then use their momentum to throw them. So I have been doing Aikido now for a little more than a month, and we had our first exam this week on Tuesday in Aikido. So here is me doing a sort of a fall where you sort of roll your back and use the momentum to fall, but then use your same momentum to spring yourself right back up. So here is me doing that in my exam. Okay, so you can do that, and then instead of going right back up, you can fall into a back roll, which is called the Ushiro Ukemi. And I don't think I actually fall directly into the roll. I think I just kind of go from a like kneeling stance into the roll, which is what you were supposed to do for the exam. But we did do a couple times the fall and then Ushiro Ukemi. But anyway, here is me doing back rolls all the way across the dojo. Okay, and so this last one is the Katate Dori Tai no Tenkan, which I don't know what that literally means, but what it basically means is somebody grabs your wrist, and so they are facing you, and they grab your wrist, and then instead of trying to push against them, what you do is you use the fact that they are holding onto your wrist to actually turn. You turn, so you're now both facing the same direction, and you use the fact that they are holding onto you to throw them. So they are kind of faced with the choice of either be thrown or let go and then do a roll. So here is me being the person who is being grabbed. And now here is me being the person that is doing the grabbing and then turning my fall into an Ushiro Ukemi. So that's been a really cool thing, and I'm excited to start Kendo next week, which is swords, like samurai swords. We're not going to be using real samurai swords, unfortunately, or maybe like very fortunately. But we are going to be learning, I suppose, some of the basics of fighting with samurai swords. So that should be really cool. You might notice, by the way, that Judo, Aikido, Kendo, they all have do, and the word for Japanese martial arts in general is actually budo. And do is something along the lines of the way of, or like the art of. What all of the prefixes mean, so I and Ju and Ken, I don't really know, but I assume they mean something along the lines of like Ken, swords, the art of swords. So that's the extent of my translation ability on that, but it's still pretty interesting.